Hey everyone. So today we are having Anmol Patel with us. He will share about his journey to University of Toronto. So it's great to see Anmol back because he was my first YouTube video when I recorded his internship experiences and mood court experiences as a part of Law Octopus's task. So it's good to have you back, Anmol. And as classmates, also, I am very happy to see him back and have a conversation with him about his life at University of Toronto. So starting ahead, please tell us about your journey so far.
So hi Krusha, it's very nice to see you and uh, nice to see what you're doing right now, working after your master's program. Um, Regarding my master's, so I had applied to eight different programs. Most of them were in Europe. Only one was here in Canada at University of Toronto. Since my area of interest was legal theory, so all of the programs were either in philosophy of law and governance or an LL.M in legal theory.
So you said you considered other universities as well. So which universities did you consider for applying this course, and what exactly you looked while scattering these universities?
So like I said, since my area of interest was philosophy of law and legal theory, two programs were specifically MA in philosophy of law and governance. One was at Leiden, and the other was at Vrije University in Amsterdam. All the others were LL.M programs. One was at Goth in Frankfurt, which is which is actually hosted by Goth, but it's a program. It's a very different program organized by European Academy of Legal Theory, and it's a very specific LLM program in legal theory. There were two other programs which were at KU Leuven, which is in Belgium, which is also a great university, and then was University of Toronto, and University of Glasgow also had an LLM program with courses which were around legal theory. So yeah, these were the programs that I applied to.
Okay. Could you share some insight about your present course? What about the courses and the modules, and how are you going ahead with the same about your coursework or any specifics you want to share with the students and the audience?
So it has been really great at University of Toronto. One of the reasons why I chose University of Toronto from among all the programs that I got into was because of its rank in the Times Higher Education global ranking. It's placed at the 10th spot in law specifically, and in QS ratings it's placed at about 17th or 18th or so. So that was one reason. The other reason was the faculty. So there's amazing scholars at University of Toronto Faculty of Law who learning under whom was a great experience right from the beginning. The Dean of Graduate Studies was quite good. I approached him a few times to seek guidance, even to seek career guidance, but also to ask about the courses that I should choose for the next term. And he was quite accommodating, and he helped me and decide the courses and plan my career ahead. In terms of the courses that I took a very not a very broad range, but a sort of a broad range of courses. I had interpretation of statutes, which was taught by a scholar who comes from anthropology, so it had an interdisciplinary approach. I had two courses which were directly related with legal theory. One was a workshop which had amazing scholars from different parts of the world come and present their work, and foundations of legal theory. The person who taught that course, she taught it amazingly well. She had brilliant insights. She covered the American canon of legal thought like I don't think anybody else would be able to. do. It's a very difficult job, and she did it. Um, she did it quite well. She even had anecdotes regarding different kinds of scholarship and the movements that surrounded when those scholarships were actually being written and talked about and discussed in um, academia. I took a couple of IP courses, and those scholars, those professors were also amazing. One of them was, in fact, a policy moot. It's called Copyright Policy in the Making, but it's a moot which is organized by the Ministry of Innovation, Science and Development and the Ministry of Canadian Heritage. And they do it every year, where students get to make a proposal which is in the format of a memorandum to the cabinet, and then you present it to policymakers. And so it's moot, but it's like a policy moot. That happened just
This
this
sounds
past.
really interesting.
Indeed, it was. Just this past week on Thursday and Friday, last Thursday and Friday, and it was um, quite an amazing experience to have to present your proposal and to get extensive feedback on your proposal. And since copyright was an area of interest for me, nothing could be better than that. So all in all, I can say that it was worthwhile coming here to University of Toronto for doing my LL.M program.
Oh my God, that's so much to take in, and thank you so much for sharing all these information with us. I think this course definitely sounds very competitive at the same time as well. So I would like to know that what was the application procedure like? I mean, what steps did you require to take, or did you have to prepare anything in advance, or what sort of documents would any potential student need to have?
So, like most other LLM programs, of course, you need to prepare well in advance, and it's best that you apply the moment the applications open. That gives you the best possibility, the best probability of getting into the program. One slight difference is that the applications for the scholarships are also in advance. So, and the deadline is also quite early. So you need to be careful of that as well while you're applying. In terms of what's required for the application, you need two letters of references, a statement of purpose, um, and either a plan of study or a thesis proposal based on what you're choosing to do. So there are essentially three options here. You can either choose coursework only, or a short thesis or a long thesis. So it's somewhat similar to what you have in UK as either postgraduate taught or postgraduate uh, research courses. Only an extra sort of an extra option. So
Right.
in coursework only, you can have either 28, you can take courses of up to 28 or 29 credits. In a short thesis, you have to take courses, I think, up to 20 credits, and your thesis should be about 15,000 words. And in case of a long thesis, your thesis should be about 45,000 words, and the number of courses are about 14, worth 14 credits or so. So you need to choose one of those while you're applying, and so your plan of study or your thesis proposal should be based on this particular decision. There are also interesting concentrations here. So there's health law, there's legal theory, there's business law, there's criminal law concentration. So you can apply for any of those concentrations. They're basically specialization. They're just like specializations. You need to fulfill a number of credits in that particular concentration. So
Right. So I see that there are plenty of options available for students to pick. So one follow-up question I have is, so you mentioned about all these different sort of courses, be it a short-term thesis or a coursework only. So is there any separate application you need to do for that, or it's just one application in which you just check all the criteria listed? So how exactly does that work?
So in case of concentration, in case of choosing a concentration, there's no separate application. It comes within your main application itself and your thesis proposal or your um, plan of study should necessarily incorporate that. There's another option available, which is called a collaborative specialization. So that's at the university level. So that's not necessarily in the law school. You can choose a collaborative specialization. There are, I believe, 4 or so collaborative specializations available for LL.M students. One is in global health, one is in bioethics, one is in sexual diversity studies, one is in Jewish studies, and there's one in women and gender studies. So they're offered by different institutes or research centers housed within University of Toronto, and you can take courses in those particular specializations if you choose to do so. So applications for those collaborative specializations are separate. They're apart from the application for your LL.M program. And if you do get into any of those specializations, you can choose any one of them if you want to. So for example, I got into specialization for bioethics, for sexual diversity studies, and for global health. I ended up choosing none of them because it did not match with the courses and the timetable that I had said. But I did take one course from the options available for those particular specializations. So I mean, I could do at least one course in them. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, did you take any assistance from specialized consultant, or did you do everything by yourself? Is it doable? I mean, on your own?
So I mean, you've also gone through this, and you would be very well aware of it. That it's not something that you can't do, and especially if you're lawyers, I don't think it's something that you would need help from consultants. Consultants don't necessarily help you with your master's application. They can't add value to you in that sense. So it's, I mean, as a law student, I think students can do it on their own.
Okay. And how is the teaching pedagogy like? How will you differentiate your experience at India and what you're doing now?
Sorry, there was a lag. I couldn't hear what you said.
Okay. So, how was the teaching pedagogy? I mean, what is the difference you can notice in what you studied? So, your undergraduate is from India, of course, and you're doing your master's now. So, what, in your opinion, is the difference in the teaching pedagogy between these two?
So, from what I've seen and from what I've heard, it's so in Canada, it's a mix of what happens in the US and in Europe. So, you do have the Socratic method, like in the US, you do have to prepare for classes in advance, but it's not limited to doctrine, or it's not as strict as it is in the US. So there's material that you need to prepare for, but the overall environment in the classroom is much less strict compared to the US. There's much more free interaction, I would say, and the kind of courses that I took, a lot of them had very few students. So the smaller the classes, I think it's the better because there's more scope for interaction. Compared to India, I think that there's a big difference in terms of the pedagogy over here. The kind of scholarship and the amount of scholarship that you've got to read to. So, for example, for Foundations of Legal Theory, we had to read for every week. We had to read a lot of. I mean, compared to all other courses, that was the most I had to read, and especially in comparison to the number of credits for that course, the reading was much more. But then the course itself is such that you need to read that much in order to actually get something out of the course.
To be able to participate in the interaction.
Exactly.
to
Exactly.
actively understand what's going on. True, true.
Yes.
But I
Yes.
feel EU and UK perspective towards teaching pedagogy, especially for the postgrads, are a little bit relaxed than I would say it's in Canada or USA. Um, because I was in the UK and I felt that this is a very relaxed form of education. They are not being, actively monitoring your presence or participation. They only need to see that, there's nothing happened to you unless you come to the class and you don't skip on no more number of classes. But I think in Canada and US, it's more, it's a stricter approach towards education from my experience and what your has been, I can derive that. So thank you so much for all the insights. And if you want to add something to it or share any tips with the potential students, please feel free to do so.
I'd just like to say that apply well in advance and plan and apply so that you're well ahead and you have a greater probability of actually getting into the program that you're applying into. But thanks a lot, Krusha, for this. It's nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you too again. And you don't need to mention any of it because it was in a way to, get back to my classmates and be in touch with you again. It's been a long time that we spoke. So it's always great to be connected with your old friends. And I hope
Yes.
to keep in touch
Oh, definitely.
now onwards.
Yeah.
And you'll definitely need to catch up when you come back to India
Most
or
certainly.
I visit Canada,
Oh, that would
whichever
be
is
great.
earlier. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for your valuable time.